on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being totally screwed, 5 being never better, where do you think the agency business overall is? Colin?
6.
6.
Yes.
Okay. Give me 2, 3 sentences on why.
I think advertising is growing. Agencies are growing. You look at the holding companies, they're all growing. Clients, it's getting more complex out there. Clients have to go to an agent to help them master that complexity. We have a lot of clients that will go in piecemeal and do certain things with certain publishers, but overall, if you don't have ideas that are integrated, you don't get the impact you want. You need people that are there that know how to integrate those ideas and drive real value. So I think it's never been a better time to be in an agency.
Never better. Okay. Anthony?
I'd obviously agree, I think, with all of those points. But what I'd add is the measurability, and I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about defining measurability, but the measurability now means that you can see if something's working in a way that's never historically been as possible. It's been obscured by research methodologies that were difficult to attribute source of contribution of awareness. I mean, you looked at historical awareness studies, they always said it was TV that drove awareness. Even if you weren't on TV, it would still be recognized as TV. We now have a far more granular suite of sources to analyze if something's working, which means that companies, whether or not that's the marketer, whether or not it's the agency, can no longer hide behind the precedent of historical work as the justification for future strategy. So it's a very exciting time to be an agency.
Okay, I'm going to have to play devil's advocate because we don't have conflict then. So basically, if I had to boil it down, I mean, you're saying agencies still more so than ever trusted guide for clients in this very, very complicated digital media world. And you're saying agencies' contributions to clients are even more evident than ever, right? So a lot of what I end up hearing sometimes from people about agencies are, I would boil it down to 3 things. 1, they've been horribly slow at adapting and innovating. 2, and these are all interconnected. 2, they can't attract the same kind of talent that, think of the first session here was people like BuzzFeed, people like Tumblr, people like Thrillist and Birchbox. Can't attract that same talent because that kind of talent that they most need does not see agencies as a place to do innovative things. And 3rd, again, all related, clients have trusted agencies less and value them less and commoditize their services more. So let's start from...
Go to the first one. What was the first one?
From the top. So first one of this bill of particulars is that agencies have been horribly slow to adapt and to innovate. Is that a fair?
I just look at our agency and the clients that we have, and I want to know if you talk to any of our clients, because I don't think they would say that.
We didn't get to the clients part yet. So you would say...
I think that we have been able to, I think Rashad Tabakawala, who the Chief Innovation Officer at Viviki, talks about agencies being like cockroaches and always finding ways to survive. And, well, in a way, it is. You always... We, as an organization, we always are trying to find ways to add value and survive. And the only way you survive in this business is if you can bring something to that client that the client can't do on their own. Otherwise, they wouldn't use you.
So if you were to look at like the transition, I mean, because it's sort of a historic transition from analog to digital media, outside of Digitas, you think overall agencies from top to bottom, if you were to rate, that have done a really, really good job of being innovative and ahead of the curve?
I think agencies have done a really nice job, and probably even more so in the last couple of years, because we've all become much more collaborative than we ever used to be. And we now leverage partners much more openly than we've ever done before. We bring in everybody, any technology, any social network directly into our clients. We don't shield our clients from any of that stuff. So I think we've been bringing outside innovation into our agencies, but also directly to our clients. And giving them an opportunity. I mean, we did Small Business Saturday 2 years ago. We did the first monetization of the Twitter platform last year with Amex Sync. We're bringing a lot of interesting ideas. Somebody today talked about, from Equal, about Philadelphia cream cheese and the leveraging of video and creating a community of moms cooking. That was us as well. So we're bringing a lot of, I think, ideas to the marketplace that are not traditional advertising ideas. I think they're like brand platform ideas and a way for brands to connect with consumers in very real ways. And I think that's all been very different than say 4 years ago, and very innovative.
Okay, so Anthony, why then because people do say it. People do say that agencies have been slow to adapt. Why do you think agencies get tagged with that label?
Well, I think marketing has been slow to adapt. So I would actually agree that agencies have been slow, but I think marketers have been slow. I think that consumers, if you look at behavior, time spent, now I don't subscribe to time spent being the direct metric for allocation. I think it's essential that we justify new channels or new tactics with some sort of analysis. But clearly, if you look at time spent, we are overweighted in traditional channels, and we're still thinking as an industry. And again, I don't think you can blame the agency, actually, because ultimately there comes to the point where we are defined against the metrics that allow us to be paid and to win business. So there is a certain degree of innate conservatism in the way marketing budgets are managed by all parties. And I think the industry has to move a lot more quickly. And the first thing to probably think about is to stop thinking that it's about advertising. And I think a lot of agencies, particularly agencies with a strong digital heritage, have moved more quickly into understanding it's about content, it's about experiences, it's about melding placement with design, much as what was referenced in the last presentation. And to the second point of resources, I think advertising is still a business that can attract people. It's fun. And again, agencies tend to be in big cities. A lot of client businesses tend to be outside of big cities. Agency businesses tend to give people a lot of variety. They also tend to be quite a lot of fun. I think the marketing organizations tend to be more conservative. Maybe that's a good thing. But
what about, because I'm hearing more and more agencies, they need digitally savvy people, digitally talented people. They need a different sort of person who has a lot of options. What's the pitch you make for not going to Google, for not going to Tumblr, for not going to BuzzFeed?
But allow me to rephrase it. I don't think you can talk somebody out of doing that. And I think that's one of the exciting things for people coming into our industry, is that they will, by definition, spend some time in an agency, some time on the publisher side, sometimes in a technology role rather than in a sales role. There's a great degree of fluidity. I think what we need to do is design our organizations to accept that there is going to be a lot of rotation, and some of that will be internal rotation, people wanting to flip and pivot their career, not necessarily leaving, but within the organization. So what we need to ensure we do is create institutional knowledge, create structures whereby people can collaborate and record what they're doing so that they can be replaced, whether or not it's projected or planned change, or they rotate out of the business. We have to organize ourselves to accept that new reality.
Do you think you have the right talent set right now? Or is that a work in progress?
I think it's a work in progress. And I think the two places that we need to focus are at the bottom of the organization, the intake, and at the top of the organization. The middle will ultimately take care of itself. It'll retrain, or it'll rotate out, or at some point there'll be a more drastic decision. But if the managers don't understand what the change roadmap is, then the organization won't change. And if you don't bring people in at the bottom of the organization that don't accept the silos of online and offline, or creative and media as being separated, again, the naturals, the natives, not the immigrants, then there's no future for the organization. So my view is top and bottom, and let the middle sort itself out.
Colin, I want to pick up on that. And is there, or is this another sort of misnomer, that is there sort of a talent crisis in the agency business?
Well, we're always looking for more talent, but I think at the lower levels, it's very easy for us to attract talent. We have an intern program of 80 people this summer. I think we have thousands of people that apply. They go through a rigorous 1 month weaning process, and we end up with 80. And it's amazing to me the kind of talent that we have in that 80. And then we offer them, jobs that summer for the next year to come back full time. We offered, I think, 59 jobs. I think Digitas has a real advantage in acquiring new talent because we go very deep across a wide spectrum of capabilities. So if you want to geek out in mobile, we go incredibly deep in mobile and have so many clients in mobile. If you want to be in social, we have so many opportunities. You want to be in content, we have the third act and other things in which we go so deep in content. We're deep in data. Everybody knows us as a very data-oriented shop. We have PhDs. And so if you're into data, you want to come to Digitas because you can go deep into data. The same is true in technology, and it goes on and on. And so because of that, if people are kind of unsure what they want to do, it's like, oh, I can go deep here, I can go deep here, I can move from one place to another. I get tons of different opportunities to see how marketing is done today. We've got so many and such a wide variety of clients that I don't find us struggling at the junior levels between us and some of the other partners. I find us struggling at the more senior levels. Like, Ben Jones used to work for us in the Crave department, and Google calling and his love of technology and that connection, he decides to go to.
So how big of a challenge is that then? You talk about like social, why wouldn't that person go to Facebook? I just see it. I know people in agencies that I've known over the years and are very talented.
Right, people
and
move.
They're at Google, they're at Facebook.
But people move.
They're
that's
startups.
not, I don't know if that's a,
You used to lose them to agencies, or you lose them to clients or to publishers, but now you lose them to technology companies. That's somewhat new.
Well, I guess that part is true, but I don't know. To me, I think it's a good thing. Like, now we have a friend at that company, somebody that knows us well, somebody who can help us iterate for one of our clients. Ben does that right now with Google coming into our offices. Like, I think that's healthy for us. And we have people that boomerang all the time that leave to go to other places and come back. I don't see that part as a crisis. I think at the very senior levels, having people with real deep digital skills, we just need more of them, and those are in shorter supply.
So what about at the senior level? Not you guys, but like
you mean proper senior people.
there is sort of the.
Senior.
Someone was saying this to me earlier that like basically, well, they didn't say this part. It was actually a little bit more blunt, but that the agencies need a lot of people to retire. That again, not you guys. I'm accepting you guys. I'm totally positive that agencies and agency, maybe even holding companies, maybe not Publicis, need people to retire. That in order to truly embrace digital, that there are too many people holding it back out of self-preservation, not wanting to learn the new.
Right, but I
not
guess
wanting to adapt.
I take it that is directed more towards traditional advertising agencies in the pursuit of becoming more digital versus a digital agency, which is by nature already
So do you think traditional
digital.
agencies have that issue? If you were to hazard a guess.
I think that the power of a traditional agency is very strong, and the problems that they're solving around brands and positioning of brands and helping brands connect in the marketplace, it will never go out of style. The key ends up being the tools that they have to then execute become fewer and fewer. And so from their perspective, instead of becoming like a brand-oriented shop, like an Interbrand, if you want to remain an advertising agency, I think the definition of what that means from those agencies is more narrow than it's ever been. And as you want to expand that, then therein lies that particular issue. How do you expand it? Because it's very easy to think that to do digital, you just do the kind of the surface layer of it, and then digital will happen on its own, and obviously it doesn't work like that. And so you have to invest very deeply in that, and that's hard in an environment where everybody has to grow and everybody has to make more money.
So the final thing of those three things was the compensation thing. I think I can usually set my watch at advertising conferences when someone complains about procurement and about being beaten down by it and agency margins being compressed.
So let's not, I think it's more interesting to talk about the structure. I think we have a paradigm that evolved in the late 80s where media and creative separated. And that still is the prevailing management structure of the holding company groups. And obviously everyone's working to collaborate more effectively, But that is the heart of the challenge, because digital needs to integrate strategically along the lines of campaign design. Let's go beyond creativity. It's campaign design through all of the various assets. And media also has to have a strategy of understanding where the consumer is and how you're trying to touch them through different points of a journey. But in terms of execution, it's fundamental to put creative and media together in digital, because the two biggest variables when you're looking at a digital campaign is cost and creative. Everything else is inferior to those two levers. So if the creative is effective, you can achieve exponential uplift, or if it's incredibly cheap. Now, let's set aside attribution as a question attached to price, which it is, but price is a huge variable. So creative and media have to sit together in digital, and that is something that our industry is struggling with, and that obviously is how dedicated digital agencies putting creative and media together with a strong data heritage have blossomed inside client relationships, and therefore been acquired and put inside holding company structures. Mm-hmm. And we need to reconcile how we can get to an integrated structure so that the consumer, who is integrated and loves television and finds television influential as much as the digital touch points, how that consumer experience can be managed in an integrated fashion without losing the specialists that are essential to deployment in digital. And again, we all will have dedicated groups of people who are immersed in social and immersed in mobile and very fascinated about how they can build data integration strategies and separate people around the visualization of that, and then how that connects into output systems. But if they are too separate from that broader context, then the system again remains too fragmented.
So you think that is it's not like clients just looking for efficiencies, which usually means cheaper. I mean, do you see that as an issue?
They're also looking for that. It's a combination of the two. But they will pay for value, if you can prove your value. They will start opening up, although this works in a new business pitch going against pay for performance. People love it in a pitch. It's very difficult to get a CFO of a company to think, oh, this could be an unlimited check.
Why is that? Usually when a lot of people at agencies talk about performance pay, and it makes sense, on paper a lot. But I think in practice, I often hear of it is the client's more than willing to take part of the fee and hold it hostage to goals. Right. But if you exceed that, it's not like they're going to dip in and pay you more than that.
But that's the whole idea, right? That's what the pay for performance should be.
And how often is that done?
It's very rarely done for two reasons. One, you run into a situation in which you have to understand what the benchmark is and agree on the benchmark. Client thinks the benchmark's much lower, you think it's much higher, just like on what their average cost, say, per acquisition is today. And then you want to get it to a certain place, and so they're starting you way too low, and you're like, I can't make money if it starts that low. So it's very difficult to get to a contract and agree on a base cost before you start performing above it. And then once you get there, having a CFO think that, oh, you guys could produce 1 million new customers or 10 million new customers, and I'm going to pay you per new customer a certain amount of money. I won't pay you a fee, but I'll pay you a certain amount of money per customer. They don't like that that kind of open check.
Because that makes total sense. Like that, why?
Of course it does. Like in other words, if you make $10 million more, then you would pay me a percentage of that. If you made $100 million more, you'd pay me a percentage of that. It would make complete sense because you made more money.
So what's the objection?
They will not go down that path.
There's also the fact that there's
I've never had a client go there.
Somebody else that will take the business for a lower amount. And again, as an industry, certainly on the media side, particularly, scale is a huge factor. And so you have obviously fixed costs that you're managing as business. So if you lose a key piece of business, it's not just the revenue that you're losing, but obviously you've got to carry forward cost or deal with that resource base and cauterize it in some fashion. Also, if you're outside of a certain position in ranking, you may not be invited into new business pitches. So we'll take any one of the top 10 or maybe one outlier into a pitch process. So in an environment, competitive environment, where the agencies have to have some scale, and whether or not that's rational or not, we can debate again, separate conversation. But that is a fact that we deal with in the industry. So whilst it's extremely rational, and the client can certainly see the logic of paying 20% on a performance rather than 3% on a probably still a blended to performance situation, because they don't have to, they don't.
Mm-hmm. So you guys disagreed with my 3 big challenges. So give me one challenge that keeps you up at night then about the agency business.
For me, a lot of it is around speed and agility, and how fast can we move as an agency, because we are big. So I worry about that, and I'm doing things right now to reorganize the company to help us move more quickly. The second is probably around products and how we can develop products that can really help our clients, and that we can try to find different ways of monetizing those products beyond just FTEs. We talk a lot about how do we scale our talent, because the talent, we train and train and train talent, put a lot of money into learning and development, and trying to find ways to keep our talent, because the millennials are great, but they do have a habit of staying at a place for 2 years and then leaving. And it doesn't matter who they are, there's a big cliff at 2 years, and so we're trying to figure out ways to get people to stay longer.
Do you think that's specific to the agency business or for all businesses?
That I don't know, but I know in talking to people within the agency environment that it feels very much that way at agencies. And it also might be the way, that's the way you make money in an agency business. You come in low and you move around to make more money.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, what's the big challenge that concerns you?
So I think there's a challenge, because it doesn't matter where each of us came into the industry, we came into one particular aperture. So I was media background, and now I need to have at least a superficial understanding of technology, of data, of being able to understand if there's validity to recommendations somebody's making around statistical process, etc. And that's not my background. So understanding the consumer behavior of groups that are very different from me, whether or not that's geographically different, or whether or not that's based on life stage or different affluent situations. So there's a huge range of change that we need to be able to make decisions about the direction of our company, and the decisions about where to make investments, whether or not it's acquisitions of companies or bringing in of new talent to operate in a new area or opening into a new country. At the same time as understanding the change that we attend conferences like this to listen to. So, and at the same time as trying to manage an organization of people who rotate and have many options and see clients. So the complexity of what we're trying to stay on top of, and knowing that it's very difficult to do that, I think that's what's fascinating, but that's the big challenge.
Yeah. So I want to open up to questions, but first I'm going to ask you guys, and you've been very good about not saying it depends on anything. Usually agency people fall back on it depends a lot. So I'm going to give you statements, and maybe you could just give like a yes or no, agree, disagree, and then explain why. One is that agencies will be both smaller and more specialized in 3 years.
I would say the opposite is going to be the case. I'm finding that there's an expression that no agency can do it alone, that you have to collaborate with media companies, traditional agencies, in order to really integrate an idea to get the kind of impact that you need. But I'm finding also that agencies can't collaborate unless they know more about doing everything. So at Digitas, we are diving very deeply into creative and planning, because our ability to understand brands, how to create brands, how to reposition brands, et cetera, is absolutely critical, even when we work with a traditional agency in that area, and that's their focus, and we're doing something else. We cannot be phenomenal unless we know how to do everything into media, except the actual buying of some of the offline media. And I find that by having to do all of that to really deliver results, that you can't go to a lot of small places to get that same thing and stitch that together. You need somebody that understands it all and then can figure out which pieces of it will interact with those and collaborate with other agencies. Yeah. But I think you need to go bigger, not smaller.
Okay, Anthony, the proposition for you is that technology platforms, and there are many here, will take over many functions that were formerly done by agencies, by people at agencies.
I think that's a great thing. Marco answered that earlier, and I think there's a lot of work that we do manually that or through simplistic tools like Excel that we could be doing far more effectively with platforms. So I think that's absolutely true.
It's going to happen, and it's a good thing.
And I think it's also good because the rotation we have of people, those 25-year-olds, some of them will be leaving the business because they're sick of working 12 hours a day in Excel. So anything that allows people's time to be more productively spent analyzing data rather than creating spreadsheets and looking for insights and speaking to clients and partners is critical to offering a more upstream service to our clients. And I think the complexities of execution have pushed us further downstream than we really should be.
So Colin,
so just on that one, I believe that's true as well. But I think of search. Search has been around in a very robust way since 2000, 2002, and everybody's been really, pushing the envelope. And yet it is still true, and there's all new technologies that have come up that help us buy, et cetera. But it's still true today that people at one agency can perform better than people at another, depending on the talent.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that that's still the case, even though you think that's like, it's all this technology. So I think the technology is out there and it'll disintermediate at some places, but it doesn't tend to disintermediate the value.
okay.
It's as an enabler, not a disintermediator.
Okay, so I want to do two more, and then we'll get to a couple questions, hopefully. A lot of agencies talk about making things nowadays. They want to be makers. One person who left the agency business joked with me recently that agencies mostly make PowerPoint slides more than anything else. But the proposition is an agency will create an Instagram-like hit product in the next 5 years.
I would say very low. But that doesn't mean that agencies don't produce products. I mean, we just launched this week Brand Live, which is a product that a few of our clients are already on, which allows brands to tap into what is happening that's relevant into consumers' lives that day. And because relevance has a deadline, you have to do it that day or it's gone. So you need to create something every day that's authentic with that brand, touching that consumer. And it's a whole product that leverages, 10 different technologies underneath it so that we can see what's happening, we can create things, put it back in the marketplace, and get inside different conversations. So we have products, but would anybody produce, like a Foursquare or an Instagram? Very rare. But to be honest, they're very rare to produce those things anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so final one, Anthony, is that a digital executive will be running an advertising holding company in 5 years.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it'll be the exception that somebody who isn't steeped in digital is running a holding company in 5 years.
Okay.
It doesn't mean exclusively digital, of course, because again, we don't live in an exclusively digital world, and that's a mistake that is too often made in this type of an environment, to forget that there is a bigger canvas that is important to our clients and their consumers.
So I want to open it up. I know cocktails are coming up, and everyone is looking forward to them quite a bit. But we do have a couple microphones if anyone wants to weigh in.
Hi guys, Fahad Khan from One Public, New York. I think it's an amazing conversation that I heard so far, the second best of the day, and I truly believe.
His other one was the best.
The one before you guys, the Google guy, your ex-employee.
See, I told you Google was the threat.
He's ex-Digitas, don't forget.
So I think what Brian has been trying to do, to play the devil's advocate, has been an awesome stuff that he did. But I think an amazing response from you guys, and I totally believe that it is not so much as an agency dilemma as much as it is a marketer's dilemma. So not only that, so correct me if I'm wrong, I deeply believe that a lot of marketers would need to retire, the CMOs, the old CMOs who are in control of billions of dollars of ad spend and marketing spend. So unless they retire, because they're buddies with the holding company old people. So do you guys think it's true that, you know, when the brand managers of today in the next 5 to 10 years would become CMOs, we'll see more innovation from the marketer side, and they'll be able to overcome the dilemma that they have today?
There are a lot of interesting people being promoted into the CMO ranks. One of our clients at Delta, Bob Cuppins, came in the e-commerce lane at Delta and has systematically put the consumer at the center of that organization. And you realize what happens inside an organization when that happens, because the consumer is going from one device to another and trying to stay consistent with that experience. And he was promoted from e-commerce into social and to now head of marketing. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. And as we see a lot more of that, we'll see a lot of change happen within the industry.
I mean, I don't think we need to wait for the CMOs to retire. I think that marketers are very conscious of what their competitors are doing. So as more and more great work is done, and I think we saw some great work already, and we can surely talk about work that we've been involved with, that cascades down and across the organization. One piece of great work in a category means that whole category lifts its game regardless of whether or not it's as natural to one CMO as another. So I think we should be a lot more confident that this change is going to happen more quickly than maybe in a dark night we might sometimes fear.
Okay. I think, unfortunately, okay, Scott, you get the last word. Wait.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Scott Ferber, Videology. What is your top objective for 2013? Just thought I'd stay a little short-term focused.
My top objective is to put dynamic design alongside as much of what we're doing, whether or not that's creative ad, whether or not it's landing page, whether or not it's site structure, whether or not it's classical DCO around performance or versioning around brand objectives, as we saw from a couple of the examples, and I referenced Old Spice as the perfect example of versioning around brand and identity. To me, we spend an awful lot of time, especially as we get into data and platforms, talking about targeting and segmentation. And I totally believe that premium is where we should be pushing programmatic, not against remnant. But if you don't have a targeted experience, after all of that targeting, it's utterly wasted.
Ours is relatively straightforward. We're an agency that is concentrating on ideas and impact. And so our only two measures are, is the work getting better, and our clients, are they more successful?
Cool. Well, Colin and Anthony, thanks so much for a great panel.